In 2022, I got the Cleveland Guardians completely wrong. They had success from 2013 all the way to 2020, really thriving after Terry Francona arrived. But in 2021, they finished 2 games under 500. They did nothing to get better over the offseason. They had already gotten rid of Francisco Lindor. There was also serious talk about trading Jose Ramirez, and I thought they were going to be a last-place team. They embarrassed me, playing about 500 ball for half the season, and then exploding to finish with 92 wins. They shut down the Rays, came very close to knocking out the Yankees, and they did this by playing old-school small ball. They didn't hit the ball out of the park. The team only hit 127 homers. That was second to last in the majors, but their team average was 254, 7th best in all of baseball, and they had the 3rd most stolen bases with 119, only behind the Marlins and the Rangers. Their pitching was also very good, their team ERA of 3.96, ranking 9th of 30. They also had the youngest team in the league, their pitchers averaging 26.3 years, batters 25.9. And if they were this good now before most of their players hit their prime, they should only get better, right? The team needed some power, so they went out and signed Josh Bell to be that middle of the order bat, coming off a great season with the Nats and Padres. I had them winning the Central, going all the way to the ALCS, and all year in a weak division, I was waiting for them to break out, but they never did. Let's take a look at exactly what went wrong in 2023. They started off on a 7-game West Coast road trip, took 3 out of 4 in Seattle, 2 out of 3 in Oakland, so they came home in first place and feeling pretty good. But the rest of April was rough. They had 7 more series, and they lost 6 of them. The only one they salvaged was 2 out of 3 in Washington. They ended the month 13-15, but a year ago, after 28 games, they were only 14-14, so not much different. From there, this year's Guardians proved themselves to be about a 500 team, winning 2 of 3, losing 2 of 3, getting swept by the Mets, and never being able to string together wins. Last year, in the first half of June, they ran off a 17-4 run, lifting them in the first place, and 8 games over 500 after 64 games. This year, they stood 4 games under 500 at the same point. But that 2022 team would go on to lose 12 of the next 16, and this year's team avoided those long runs in either direction. At the All-Star break, the 2022 team was 46-44. This year, they were 45-45. A disappointing season, sure, but they were set up for a big second half. Last year, they played 20 games over 500 in the second half, distancing themselves from the rest of the pack, easily taking the AL Central. They couldn't catch that spark in 2023, losing 10 more games than they won in that second half, playing at a pace 15 games behind last year's team. That's not what you expect from a team gaining more experience. They won 16 fewer games this year, so let's see who was to blame. First, the pitching was their strong suit last year. Among the American League teams, they had the 4th best team ERA, getting complete and solid seasons from Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, and Cal Quantrill. Bieber and McKenzie kept their ERAs under 3. Quantrill stood at 3.38. You can only pray you have 3 starters like this, holding down your rotation from start to end. Their starting staff as a whole had the 5th best ERA in the American League, 3.73. In 2023, nothing went their way. Shane Bieber wasn't as durable, only making 21 starts, missing 2 months because of his right elbow, and when he was on the mound, his ERA rose almost a full run. Tristan McKenzie gave them 191 innings last year. This year, he gave them 16. It was an injury-riddled season, and he only made 4 starts. Cal Quantrill was on the IL twice, only making 19 starts, putting in about half the innings of last year, and his ERA went up almost 2 full runs. That wasn't all. Zach Plesac started 24 games last year, giving them a decent 4.31 ERA. But this year, he only made 5 starts, posting a 7.59 ERA. Then, he was DFA'd in June. This all sounds disastrous, but in the end, their team ERA only went up half a run, still right in the middle of the American League. That's because they got awesome performances from their young guys. Tanner Bybee was their new ace, 25 starts and a 2.98 ERA, second place for Rookie of the Year. Logan Allen made 24 starts and had a 3.81 ERA, and Gavin Williams made 16 starts and stood at 3.29. Also, Aaron Savali had an ERA pushing 5 last year, and this year he made 13 starts and had a 2.34 ERA. He was dealt to the Rays at the deadline. Late in the season, they tried to get some help from Lucas Giolito, but he had a 7.04 ERA after 6 starts. The starting staff raised their ERA about a third of a run, up to 4.09 and dropped to 6th place. All things considered, the staff has a bright future. Their bullpen was a big reason for their success in 2022, 3rd in the AL with a 3.05 ERA. Emmanuel Clase was insane, saving 42 games and posting a 1.36 ERA. He came back to earth, still saving 44 games, but his ERA more than doubled to 3.22, officially blowing 12 saves, where last year he only blew 4. None of their key relievers improved over last year. Trevor Stefan and Sam Hentges held their ERAs well under 3, and this year Stefan's rose over 4, and Hentges was well over 3.5. Eli Morgan's ERA went up 63 points. Enyel De Los Santos went up a quarter run. James Karinchak went up well over a run, and Nick Sandlin's went up over a run and a half. I guess there was nowhere else for the bullpen to go but down, and in the end, they weren't terrible. Their ERA going from 3.05 to 3.79, from 3rd place to 6th place. Last year's offense was remarkable. In this day and age of 3 true outcomes, they didn't strike out. They were 1st place in the majors, averaging less than 7 per game. They also didn't really walk, 7th fewest in the majors, getting less than 3 a game. And then, of course, they only hit 127 homers. The only team that had less was the Tigers, and their offense was famously bad. This team was all about contact and speed, right in the middle in runs scored at 4.3 per game. Not super impressive, but consider this. They were 11th place with runners in scoring position, hitting 259. And this year, that average slipped 14 points, and they slipped to 24th place. That ties in with their clutch stat, measuring how a batter performs in high-pressure situations. And last year, they were 2nd in all of baseball. This year, surprisingly, not much worse, finishing 5th. In fact, the offense had the same characteristics from last year. Number 1 in avoiding the strikeout, drawing the 6th fewest walks, and only hitting 124 homers. This year, that was dead last in the majors. Their team average only dropped 4 points. Their OPS also only dropped 4 points, and they scored 36 fewer runs. All of this is very comparable, but they failed to keep up with the rest of the league. Those stats were all middle of the pack last year, but they were now the 4th lowest scoring team and had the 4th worst OPS. Looking at the players themselves, a few of them pop off the page. First, Josh Naylor had a great year. He played in 1 fewer game this year, but he drove in 18 more runs, hit 3 less homers, but raised his average 52 points and OPS 71 points. Jose Ramirez saw a dip from last year, but his season was still great. 24 homers and 80 RBI. That was 46 less than last year, but you're not going to drive in 126 runs every year. He raised his average 2 points, but his slugging was down, dropping his OPS 38 points. 831 is nothing to complain about. Now, for the disappointments. Andres Gimenez almost hit 300 last year, his OPS at 837, and that dove 125 points, falling to a below-average player. Steven Kwan followed up his rookie year with a sophomore slump, his average dropping 30 points, OPS dropping 62 points. Now, just a league average player. Oscar Gonzalez also had a very strong rookie year, hitting 296 with a 789 OPS in just 91 games, playing the hero twice in the playoffs. And this year, he spent a lot of time in the minors. He only played 54 games and hit 214 with a 551 OPS. He was put on waivers and he's now a Yankee. Finally, there's Josh Bell. He came to the Guardians to be their power bat, and in 97 games, he only had 11 home runs, a 233 average and a 701 OPS. When they traded him to the Marlins, the Guardians were only a game out of 1st place. They weren't selling because they were giving up. They were selling to dump his salary because he wasn't getting the job done. Mike Zunino was another guy they signed in the offseason, looking for some home run pop. But after 42 games, 3 homers, a 177 average and 578 OPS, they just released him. It was not a good offseason for the Guardians front office, and the moves they had to make midseason caused some unrest in the clubhouse. The team needed that boost to get to the next level, and they whiffed. That doesn't mean the front office failed at the deadline. The Aaron Savali trade got them Kyle Manzardo, a 2nd-round pick from 2021, a top 100 prospect and the first baseman of the future. The Josh Bell trade got them Khalil Watson, a middle infielder and the 16th overall pick in the 2021 draft. That reloaded their farm system, took an L for the 2023 season, and they hope to be back next year and in the years to come. Terry Francona retired and they got a new manager, a first-timer actually, 39-year-old Stephen Vogt. He just retired last year, so he played with some of these guys, and hopefully he can connect with the young players. They have a lot of good pitching just getting started, and if they can get their veterans healthy, that'll go a long way. They still need power in that offense, but at the very least, they hope to get their studs from 2022 back in top form. In that weak AL Central, they're definitely going to be in the hunt. That's all I have for the Guardians. Let me know if you have any thoughts on the team, or if you have any more points to add, sound off in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and want to see more content like this, please give me a sub. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.